I just want to come on and talk about why you should weigh yourself. I sent an email out recently and made a post about the benefits of weighing yourself regularly, and I just want to cover that off now in a live. So, I had someone come and say to me that they were frustrated that they were exercising hard, they were going to the gym regularly, they'd changed their diet, and they were frustrated that they hadn't lost any weight. When I asked them what their weight was, they didn't know. All right, they hadn't actually weighed themselves, and they hadn't been weighing themselves regularly through that process to know at any stage whether their weight had gone down. Potentially, it had gone down, and then it had gone back up, but there was no feedback to judge that on because they hadn't been weighing themselves. And it reminded me of what it was like working with clients when I would have people who came in to see me to help them to lose weight, and I would ask them what their weight is. So rather than just put them on the scales and find out what it was, I wanted to know whether they knew what it was. And most of them, like the vast majority of them, did not know what their weight was. They hadn't weighed themselves for a long time, and they had never had any history of weighing themselves regularly. And I find this a really, really weird way to tackle a goal without getting any feedback as to whether you're getting closer to your goal and whether you need to change something. And I blame a couple of things. I blame the media. Often people will read magazine articles, or they might read something on the internet, and it will say, you shouldn't weigh yourself because it's not reliable, it's not accurate, and therefore it's not worthwhile to do. Or it could be a friend that they're talking to, and the friend says, "I know, you shouldn't weigh yourself. I got fed up of weighing myself because it always made me feel so bad when I looked at the number on the scales, and I feel so much better when I don't weigh myself." Or it could be from a professional, for example, personal trainer. And the personal trainer might say, "You shouldn't weigh yourself because it's just demoralising, and your weight is not a good indicator of the process of the progress that you're making. You could be putting on muscle mass, and your weight stays the same even though your body fat is decreasing." All these 3 points are wrong. Your weight is really important. Your weight is a good indicator for you to know whether you're on track. If you are trying to lose weight, then it makes sense that you would monitor your weight and watch it go down. If you're trying to gain weight, like you're working out and trying to build some muscle, then it would also make sense to monitor your weight and see it going up. Now, for the people that say, "Yeah, but it's not accurate," because your weight is just one measure of everything in your body. So you can get some inaccuracies because you're measuring fat, you're measuring muscle, you're measuring anything that's still sitting in your digestion, you're measuring your level of hydration, and all these things can fluctuate, and they can fluctuate a lot more with females as well. Their weight can fluctuate a lot more when it comes to the time of the month, and their hydration levels can go up and down, and also the amount of fluid they hold in their body. So yeah, I get it. It can be inaccurate, but it's just one measure, and it's one measure that we should include. We shouldn't just throw it out and disregard it because it's not completely accurate. If we were able to get a DEXA scan at the hospital, which gives us a scan of our complete body, it's like this machine that you lie in, and it goes across your body like this, and it gives you like an image and a percentage of your fat mass, your bone mass, and your muscle mass. If you could get access to one of those regularly, that would be fantastic, wouldn't it? But the fact is we can't. So we have to use a number of measures which are all inaccurate, but by having them all together, it gives us some really good feedback. So along with the weight, what else would I recommend? I would recommend that you get some body circumference measurements. Now, for those of you that are trying to lose weight or to maintain weight, then the 2 that you would get would be around your belly and around your hips. Okay, so we have a waist to hip ratio, and that can work out where if your belly is a bit bigger than what it should be. So you measure around your waist and around your hips. That waist is a really good one. And if you are someone that holds your weight in other areas, for example, some guys hold their weight up here in their chest a lot more, so they can be quite fat around here, then you would measure that as well. And that's an easy one to measure because you've got your nipples here as a guideline to measure that across, and you can see how far you're progressing. So we can measure a number of things to give us more accuracy, and the measurements then become more reliable because we can see them all together. But for the people that throw out weight as a measure, they're really missing something which can give you much more regular feedback. For example, just taking those chest measurements, you're not going to see much of a change in a week. In a month, then those types of circumference measurements are quite good to take. But when it comes to daily recording and weekly recording, your weight can be really valuable. So I would recommend that people weigh themselves weekly. But I've also heard recently that weighing yourself daily, as long as you can mentally handle the fluctuations that are going to come, can be quite helpful. Because if you weigh yourself daily, then you can take all those averages you can take all those days and then add them up at the week and then get an average. And so if you had 7 measurements for the week, seven measurements for the week, then at the end you would divide your total number by 7 and you'd get an average for that week, and you'd do the same again the following week. And that's going to be really accurate. That's a really good way to do it. The reason why I haven't recommended that is that when people weigh themselves regularly, they can become despondent when their weight goes up, when it should have come down because they did a lot of exercise the day before, for example. But your weight, it fluctuates up and down, right? That's going to happen and doesn't immediately change just due to some changes that you made the day before. It takes some time. And so if you have the patience and the mental capacity to watch the stocks in the share market and see them go up and down and not touch them, then you might be the type of person that could weigh yourself regularly, take those measurements and then get the average, and then watch those averages progress over a longer period of time. If not, then keep it to weekly. Now, this weight is a really important indicator for you as to whether what you are doing is working or not. If it's not working, your weight's not coming down, then you need to change something. It's not just a matter of blaming the process of what you're doing is not working, or blaming your genetics that I just can't lose weight. You just need to change something. It gives you feedback as to what you are doing is not working to the level that you want it to be, so you need to change. And when it comes to weight loss, you always need to change. You can't stay doing the same thing, just like training, for a long period of time, because your body gets used to it, and soon enough you will start maintaining and your body weight won't go down. And that's the mistake that some people make. So weighing yourself regularly gives you the information that you need to then make those changes. Now, for the people that say, it's just I feel despondent by getting my weight, and like the person I was talking to, for example, they felt that it was best for them not to measure their weight. Well, the thing is, they still end up despondent because they haven't got the results that they wanted to get. When they look at themselves in the mirror, when they see themselves in a photo and they're not what they had hoped they would be, they get despondent. But a lot of the time, they shouldn't be, because the feedback that they're getting is not sensitive enough. By sensitive enough, I mean it's not showing those changes that may well have been there, but they just don't see them. They don't see them when they look at themselves in the mirror or when they see themselves in a photo. They're looking for big changes in those in that form of feedback, by visual feedback, and that's just not sensitive enough. And so they're still going to get despondent. So that is not a reason for these people to give up weighing themselves because they're going to get despondent. What it is sticking their head in the sand. They stick their head in the sand and want to ignore these measurements because they have lost confidence that what they're doing is going to make to get them the result that they want. But by sticking their head in the sand and ignoring this valuable piece of feedback, they are not going to end up where they want, and they will eventually give up hope, lose confidence, and give up. So the reason why these people don't weigh themselves is often because they feel like that they can't make a difference. They feel like that whatever they do isn't going to make a difference, and therefore they don't want to know the result, and they ignore it. And they can continue on and eat the way they're eating and exercise the way they're exercising, but at some stage that's not going to be enough. They're going to reach a point where their willpower will give out and they just can't continue on because they're not getting what they wanted, which was the shape of body they wanted or a certain weight that they wanted. And so it's really important that those people reframe what the scales mean. Often when they jump on the scales and they see a number, they make it mean something about them. And it's that feeling, that sense of that they are not good enough, that that what they're doing isn't working, they have no control over it. it makes them lose hope. And it's that lack of hope which creates a lack of confidence and then gives them a lack of energy that they need to push harder and harder. And that's where a coach can be really helpful, to try and reframe that. But if you don't have that, when you step on the scales and you see that number, you've got to see it just as a feedback, a piece of feedback. It doesn't mean anything about you. It's the change in those numbers which is really important. And it's the numbers that can give you the feedback as to what you need to change to make sure the numbers keep going down. And think about weight loss like any other goal that you were working towards. If you were a sprinter, if you're an athlete, and you had a time that you were working towards, and for the sprint or for any type of race that you wanted to achieve really well, and the time that it takes you to run that distance is just like the number on a scale. It doesn't mean anything about you, and athletes understand that. They are interested in the differences, how they can change that time on the time, or whether their time is coming down and what they need to do differently. It gives them positive feedback, and it can also give them motivation to do things differently and to try harder. If you're driving your car, the speedometer is like the scales when you weigh yourself. It gives you feedback as to how fast you're going. It's valuable feedback. You could stick your head out the window and try and work out how fast you're going, but sooner or later you're going to come a cropper. You're going to get caught by the cops for going too fast, because you haven't got accurate feedback of the speedometer that's in front of you. If you're someone that struggles with your finances and you get into debt and you use credit cards and use the same approach with those credit cards, which is being blind, not looking at the balance, continually using that credit card and not paying it off every month and having that debt rack up higher and higher and higher to the point where you get so worried about it and feel you have no power over it, you've got no control over it, you don't want to open up the bank statements. So the mail comes in and it just piles up on your desk. It gets thrown away and discarded. All these bills that you just don't want to face. The result is you're going to go broke. There's a sense of apathy and ignorance. And that may be one way to try and hide yourself from this feeling of pain, but all you're doing is delaying it. That pain will eventually come home to roost. And when it does, it is harder and it hurts more. So you need to take responsibility and take care for yourself now by weighing yourself regularly. By weighing yourself regularly, even if you're not trying to lose weight or to gain muscle mass, weighing yourself regularly allows you to see that your body weight is maintaining, rather than waiting until you're 10 kilograms or 20 pounds heavier when you see yourself in the mirror and then decide, oh, I've put on weight, oh, my jeans don't fit anymore. Those indicators are too soft. They're not substantial. We don't want indicators like that. We want hard facts, we want regular facts, and we want a number of different facts that we can pull together to help us out. So that the visual feedback you can see in the mirror and the photograph, the feeling of your pants and how you wear them, they are all great pieces of feedback. And what I'm saying is you need those as well as this direct feedback. So you have subjective feedback and objective feedback. The objective feedback are the measurements, the numbers, and the subjective feedback is how you look, how you feel. We need both of those together to get a really good sense of how well we're progressing. So please, this week, start weighing yourself regularly. Don't make it mean anything about yourself. It's just how heavy you are. It's not just your fat. It's a number of different factors that make up that weight. But the one thing that's going to change regularly in your body, it's your fat mass, right? And if you weigh yourself and you see your weight going up and you're not doing a lot of weight training, it's likely that it's coming from fat. And then you need to make some changes so that you can decrease that amount of fat back to where it was. We're trying to maintain our weight at least as we age. If you don't, then even if your weight stays the same, your fat mass will continually increase as your muscle mass decreases. It's a fact of aging. So when we're getting older, what we're trying to do is at least maintain our muscle mass and with some strength training and maintain that fat mass, or try and cut it back as much as we can. And how do we do that? With data. Weigh yourself regularly. I hope that's helpful. Please leave any questions or tips or things that you do to help keep yourself on track and keep your weight down and your body lean and fit and strong.